Hey everyone, this is Dimitri with Star Moment Photography. Thank you for joining me for another episode. So I know it's been a while since I've done a video. It's been a hectic month. February, I've been busy with shoots almost every weekend, and I also wanted to take the time to really test out some new gear that I got over this past month to really put it through its paces so I could do a proper review for you guys. So today we're going to go ahead and we're going to review the Canon EOS R6, which I've now had for just a little bit over a month now. And I am proud to say that I've really been able to put it through its paces through a variety of different shooting scenarios. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get into it. So one of the first things I wanted to talk about with this camera is just how responsive it is compared to even the EOS R and certainly my 5D Mark IV. So both of those cameras prior, they were responsive cameras in their own right. They weren't bad by any means. They both got the job done. The autofocus was really good. But there were some areas where they both just lagged on, like number one, the frames per second. They just weren't very fast in terms of like the frames per second when I wanted to shoot fast action, say like if I was shooting a dance, or if there was, if I was like in a situation where I needed like very fast, reliable autofocus tracking and whatnot. Both cameras lagged on that, but the R6, I have to say, is probably the most responsive camera I've ever used. It's quick, the autofocus nails the shot and it sticks onto the subject throughout the entire time. It just doesn't miss. It's incredible what it can do. I was in a situation recently where I did a surprise engagement session that I actually was surprised when the guy, he dropped down on his knee to propose to the woman. So I had to just be quick about getting the shots because I didn't know that was coming. And the R6 it nailed it. It just did its job. It was very quick, very responsive. And mind you, this was in a very low light situation. The sun had already set and I had turned off my flash because I was trying to go for a silhouette shot at the time, and the R6 delivered. Compared with the R, which I also shot in the same session, it was just so... It was a night and day difference. The R, while it still nailed some of the shots, it was noticeably slower to achieve focus. It wasn't as accurate, and of course the frames per second, it was very slow. I had to be very methodical, and eventually I ended up having to turn the flash on in order to make sure I got some usable shots from that camera. But the R6 didn't have that trouble. Matter of fact, I finished the rest of that shoot with just the R6 along with the 51.2, and for most of the shots that I did afterwards, they were all completely natural light, just using window lights from the town we were shooting in downtown Winter Park. I was just shooting at using window lights for most of it. There were only a few times where I ended up using a strobe, and I have to say the R6 nailed it. Great. Another situation I was able to use it in recently was during a short wedding. It was a shorter wedding that I did last minute, but wedding photography shines. It is so good at wedding photography. The frames per second, the low light capabilities, the autofocus, the eye autofocus on this is so much better than even on the R. The R is great. The eye autofocus is very good, but the R6 is on a whole different level. Like it does not lose the eye. And matter of fact, I can choose which eye that I want to focus on when I'm shooting. So that's a big game changer for me. Now, one area that I did have to come up with a creative solution was when the bride was walking down the aisle, because of course, when it's the aisle, there's also other faces on either side of the bride. So I had to figure out a way to make sure that it only stayed focused on her, and I came up with an interesting solution. So what I did was I set up my buttons to where for one of my buttons here, I set it up to where I can change the focus mode that I'm using just by the click of a button. So I would initially have it set to eye autofocus, but if I found that I needed to get more precise control, just click the button and I would switch to spot autofocus, and I could move the autofocus point with the joystick to right on her, and it would stick on her after that. And that was a very usable solution for me, so didn't have any troubles there. The battery, I mean, it was only a couple hours, but so I didn't really have to, I really wasn't able to push the battery life. But after that, after the 2 hours of shooting with constantly using the viewfinder, I barely used any battery. So I doubt I'm gonna have much trouble with the battery with the R6. I typically will shoot with between 2 or 3 batteries per camera anyways, and I always bring my charger, so I'm always having a battery charging. When the one starts getting low, I rotate the battery, so I'm not really worried about that. Ergonomic wise, the camera, it feels so good in the hand. Like I could hold this camera comfortably for hours. It's not too heavy. It actually balances very well with the 51.2. Like the way it, like I could actually one-hand this for an entire shoot and not have any problems. One point that I touched upon already was the high ISO capabilities. The R6 completely blows away the 5D Mark IV and the EOS R in terms of low light capabilities. One of the first shooting scenarios I put this in, I went to the park after it was around dusk, and it started and the sun started setting, so I ended up having to shoot with between ISOs 3200 all the way up to ISO 10,000, and I have to say, like, images that I took at ISO 10,000 were usable, very usable shots. And later on in this video, I'm going to go ahead and take you guys through a few of my files that I took with the R6 so you can see just what it's capable of. But the ISO 10,000 files were usable. There's still some grain, but like it was not nearly as bad as what I've seen with, like, if I shot at that ISO with the EOS R or the 5D Mark IV. So that was incredible to see. Again, with that surprise engagement session, shooting in downtown Winter Park, just using window light, and I was shooting routinely about ISO 2500 to 3200, and files are clean. I barely had to use any noise reduction. It was very clean, right out of the camera, and just edit, and I still had a lot of flexibility to edit. So this actually brings me to my next point that I want to talk about with the camera, which is the excuse me, which is with the oh man, I just lost my train of thought here for a second. So I was talking about high ISO. And so the high ISO capabilities on this camera are very, very good. The next point that I wanted to talk about was the man, I hate it when I lose my train of thought. It was there, but we'll come back to it. Another area that I want to talk about was the dual card slots. This is the first time I've actually really been super reliant on the second card slot. I have it on the 5D Mark IV, but I typically only use it when I'm shooting weddings, and typically I basically just use the second card slot as just a backup. I shoot RAW to both cards, so you know, just in case one fails, I still have RAW files that I can use and still edit, so I can get a good final product. So it's, you know, that redundancy makes me feel a lot better, and So that's one thing to consider with this camera. That's another reason why I want to get the R5 as my main camera now, because I want to run a dual mirrorless setup with the R5 and R6. Both have dual card slots. One has high megapixels, the other has low megapixels, which is actually the point that I was trying to make before, but I lost my train of thought, which was the megapixel count. A lot of people were complaining when they first heard about the R6, talking about, oh, it's only got 20 megapixels, you can't do anything with that. I'm like, to all those people, shut up. Like, really, like, the only reason you would miss the extra megapixels of the R or need the 45 megapixels of the R5 is if you're making insanely large prints, number one, or number two, you're doing a lot of heavy cropping. But I have to say, shooting now with the R5 and R6 now for this past month, I reach routinely for the R6. I don't miss the extra 10 megapixels that the R has over the R6. Like, it's such a negligible difference that you're not going to notice. You're not going to notice unless you are really starting to crop in with the files. And the image quality off the R6 is just incredible. Like, I use it now routinely for portraits, and to be honest, because I'm working with much smaller file sizes, I find my editing flow is a lot easier. It's a lot simpler. I've been able to deliver my my clients' images within a lot less time than I normally would have when working with files of larger sizes, like the R, or the one time I rented the 5DS. That takes forever to edit those files, but with the R6, quick, snappy, breezy, very easy to work with, especially now that I downloaded the color fidelity camera profiles. These files are such a joy to work with, and they don't take up nearly as much space on my hard drive as with, say, the R or the 5D Mark IV, both having 30 megapixels. So if you're worried about having 20 megapixels on this camera, don't be. Like, you're not going to notice it. Your client certainly won't. So the last thing I just want to kind of touch on with the camera, I'm not going to really get into like ergonomics so much, because, you know, that's kind of been like a beaten to death with other reviewers. But just kind of quickly touch on it. Very, very nice ergonomics. I missed that they I missed the joystick that they took off the R. I find I use it a lot, so you know, I never used the touch bar on the R. I found that useless, so I'm really glad they brought back the joystick. The wheel drive here, glad they brought that back. That was something I was used to using on the 5D Mark IV, and I'm glad it carries over onto the R6 and soon the R5 when I get that. So the last thing that I mainly want to touch on, though, on that with ergonomics, is that I now can I have a button for every feature that I want to change on the fly, so I never have to take my eye away from the electronic viewfinder. I have my control ring on the lens set to control my aperture. I've got this button here to do my shutter speed, and then this dial here I have to change my ISO. So I can literally just be shooting a wedding. If I need to change settings, I never have to take my eye away from the EBF. I can just make my changes, and I'm watching the changes as I'm making them. And that's such a game changer for me as a wedding photographer, because it means less missed shots. It means I don't have to fiddle around with guesswork. I can just go ahead and look and see what the changes are being made, and I can just go ahead and get that done. So that's been my just my experience using the EOS R R6. We're gonna go ahead now and just go ahead and take a look at a few more images that I've taken with it, and I'll walk you through kind of like what my experience was taking those shots, and I'll go through editing a few of those shots and then compare them to some of the shots from the R. So guys, let's go ahead and we'll take a quick look at those shots. Guys, so here we are looking at some of the files from the EOS R6. So we're gonna start with the first portrait session that I took with this camera. So this was from my mom's friend's daughter. So this was for her birthday shoot, and so we did a portrait session for her. And as you can see, the image came out very clean. So this one I already edited a little bit, but just to kind of walk you through. So look at how nice and sharp the details are on her face. So you can see that the 20 megapixels captures the detail very nicely on her skin, on her face. You can see the hair, the colors are very rich. Now I am using the color fidelity fine detail profile on this, so let's go ahead and we'll go ahead and take a look at a non-edited image just to kind of give you what the baseline would be. So here we are with the baseline image. I underexposed it a little bit so I could have room to boost up the shadows and retain some of the highlights. So as you can see here, got some good sharp detail in the face. It's more so focused on her skirt here. I'm not sure why on that one, but you still got some really good detail. So if we go ahead and edit a little bit, you just boost up the shadows, and look at that. Nice shadow recovery right there. Boost up the blacks a little bit. Got all that detail, add a little contrast. Don't even have to really turn down any of the highlights. Slide the clarity up to about plus 12. Well, we'll just do it around plus 11. So then we just bump the vibrance up to, I bump it up to about plus 44 on average. It's a good range. And look at that, like we've got some nice rich color. The camera, it's evenly exposed all throughout the image. And then let's just scroll down and we will go ahead and add some sharpening. So I do that about 82 with the amount, and then the radius I always do 1.4. And look at that, look at how much detail is there. And this is from a 20 megapixel image, guys. Like, you would be hard pressed to tell the difference between this and a 30 megapixel file from the EOS R. Now, before we go further with the portraits, I want to show you guys just what I can get with the high ISO capabilities of this camera. So these shots I'm about to show you were taken at the park. So this image right here, this was taken at ISO 10,000. That's right, ISO 10,000 at 200 millimeters. So I took this with my 70 to 200 f2.8, and I was shooting at 1/60th of a second, slower shutter speed in order to get some more light in. And look at this, look at the detail that you can see here in this bird's feathers. Like, look at that, like it's sharp, it's crisp. You do see that there is grain in the image, but it's a very usable image. Like I could use this image in promotional stuff and whatnot, and it would work. It's very, very clean at those higher ISOs. Another image that I took in that range, there was a particular shot that I have. Yes, here we go. So this one was of a little squirrel. Same situation. ISO 10,000 at 200 millimeters at 1/160th of a second. Look at that. Sharp details. You can make out the fur and the tail. The eye is sharp. The noise, very minimal. So this is again a very usable image. So the high ISO capabilities of the R6 are truly, truly amazing. You can get some really, really, really great stuff with this camera. Again, another ISO 10,000 image. Look at that, clean, got a lot of good detail in the image still, even at those higher ISOs. And now I didn't get to I didn't test out the animal eye autofocus. That's one thing I have not tested out yet, but the camera does have animal eye autofocus. But I wanted to show you some of these bird tracking photos. The bird is so small in the frame, yet when I was shooting, the focus point was consistently sticking to the bird. Like I didn't have to really do a whole lot. Like the camera really did most of the work on that one. Like it's truly made. Like look at this. Like I really wish I had like a super telephoto, like a 100 to 500 millimeter. I could really fill the frame with this bird with that lens. So that might be on my radar at some point. So this one was shot at ISO 1600. So it's gonna be have noticeably less noise. So now if we go down a little bit further, I'm gonna go ahead and take you guys to one of my favorite sets, one of my favorite photos in this set, which is, let's see, where are you? So this is an already edited image, but look at this. Like this was with a strobe. I shot this at ISO 100, 50 millimeter at f1.2 at 1/640th of a second. And look at this. Like the color rendition is so good. Like the colors are very, like their colors are so rich. The skin sharp and accurate. Nice skin tones. Nice detail from everything. So that's a fully edited image. If we go to a non-edited image, look at this. Like it's like just the non-edited image is very good. Look at how sharp her skin is in this shot. Like very sharp detail, colors very nice. It's a nice it gives me a nice base to work with editing. Matter of fact, let's go ahead and just edit this real quick. So we go here, I'm gonna go and just browse through. I'm gonna select color fidelity, fine detail as my color profile. So what I'm gonna do, boost up the shadows. I'm gonna boost that up to about 67. I'm gonna go ahead and just boost the blacks up a little bit too, not too much. I'm gonna take down some of the highlights just a little bit. Then what we're going to do, we're going to slide the clarity to +12, add a little bit of contrast, not too much. So then we're going to go to the vibrant slider, slide that all the way to 40. We could leave it on 46. And look at that, like look at how rich these colors are. Like look at this, like very awesome image already. And then we're just gonna go ahead and do some sharpening. We're gonna, of course, go all the way up to 82 or 83, radius to +1.4, and yeah. So look at that. Like it's like the R6 file is very usable for portraits. Like the 20 megapixels, not a big deal. I'm just gonna go through a couple more images here. I'm gonna take you through some of these wedding shots that I took recently with the R6. So I'm gonna go ahead. So this was with the R6. Just going through a series of these photos here. Was able to capture a lot of interesting details at this wedding. Of course, it was a smaller wedding, so there wasn't a whole lot of like action, like fast action going on. So it was actually very easy to keep up with here. But this would kind of give you a picture. We got, you know, just the officiate with one of the planners and whatnot. Bridesmaid. Well, she's really the maid of honor. But yeah, so this wedding really, it really wasn't a challenge for the R6 at all. It was very easy to do. Oh. What's going on with this thing? There we go. Sometimes this computer be having a mind of its own. Okay, so going through. So I had another engagement session. So this one was a surprise engagement that for one of my mom's friends, and so these shots actually were taken with the R, with the regular R, and I do have to say, like, it was a little bit harder to get some of these shots because the R just, the frames per second, just weren't fast enough to really capture most of the shots I wanted. But luckily I had some shots with the R6 as well. Keep saying R5 because that's the next camera on my radar. But going through, so these are with the R6. I can tell because I usually just keep the 51.2 on the R6 now. But it renders some very lovely color. Renders some very, very lovely color. But the one session I really want to take you guys to, well, there's two really, but the main one that I really want to take you to after this one, because I just got to show you guys this shot with this baby. Like, she is such an adorable baby. All these shots were taken with the R6. I didn't even pull out the R for this session. The R6 just really handled this so well. I love this child. She is so adorable. Like, look at that smile. But look at I want to point you guys out to all the detail. Look at how rich the detail is in her face, in her eyes, and the color. Look at the color rendition. Like, this really is a lovely, lovely image. And this was all from a 20 megapixel camera. Like, so don't let the megapixels fool you guys. Like, megapixels are only a factor. If you can't get good images with less than 30 megapixels, I don't know what to tell you. So last session I kind of want to go through with you guys before we wrap this up for time. So coming here to the surprise engagement session. So here are some of the shots that I took with the R6 at just before he dropped down on his knees to do the proposal. We wanted to get some really nice silhouette shots. So as you can see, like it gave me such good, it's such a dramatic and moody look that I got with this camera and lens combo. Shooting with the low light capabilities of the R6 along with the low light capabilities of the 51.2, like, it's a recipe for a great image. So one of the shots I wanted to show you guys were some of the shots I did with the just being lit by the windows. So all these shots here, these are all lit by the window, and they it really came out really well. I'm very happy with how these shots came. And these are some of the non-edited shots that I took. And look at that, like, you could they rendered very well. So yeah, guys, so that's just kind of a few of the shots that I took with the R6 over the past month. There's still some other testing that I want to do with it, that I really want to put it through a full day of wedding shooting to see what it can do in that scenario. I have full confidence really that it'll perform admirably. Like, if these tests are any indication, it's a great camera. So guys, like, if I were to give my recommendation between picking up an EOS R or R6, I have to hands down say get the R6. Save the money, get the R6. It's gonna be a lot better autofocus. It's going to be a little bit lighter. The EVF is better. The ergonomics are better. The colors to me are render a lot better, but mainly that eye autofocus, and especially if you're a wedding photographer, the dual card slots, big thing. So that's my recommendation for this camera. That's been my review of this camera. So thank you guys for watching another video with me. I'm gonna be getting back into making regular videos now that I've taken care of some stuff that I needed to take care of personally. So now I'm gonna be back to making more regular videos, and I'm hoping for my next gear review to be my 70-200 f2.8 lens. I also plan on doing a review of the R5 at some point once I get that camera. So guys, thank you for watching. If you guys like this video and like my content, and go ahead and hit the subscribe button. If you guys want to follow me and see some more of my work, go ahead and follow my Instagram page at Star Moment Photos. You can also check out my website at www.starmomentphotos.com. So guys, have a great evening, and thanks for watching.